Okay, it's time to talk about nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is taking front and center stage at the moment with the current circumstances. It's being presented to us under the current situation as the only solution and an innovative, futuristic idea for the good of humanity. But it's already been active for a while, and this whole transhumanist idea comes from people like Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates and all that network of people. This technology is already active and isn't new. It's not really that innovative. It's quite old. It's been worked on for at least 25 years and is already manifesting in people as things like Morgellons Disease. You might have heard about Morgellons Disease, you might not. It's often referred to as something else called delusional parasitosis, and you will get prescription psychotic drugs from your doctor if you're diagnosed with this, which isn't going to help at all. It's going to make it worse technically, because it's not delusional. It is to do with parasites, and it's basically nanoparticulates in your body which self-assemble and change the way your body works. The only natural application for nanoparticulates would be memory, crystalline memory, and that's about the only natural occurrence. So we're presented by the great figureheads of our medical industry. We're presented the solution to end lockdown and beat this virus is a vaccine using mRNA or nanoparticulates, such as hydrogel. What does that mean? Well, basically it means they want to bypass any kind of firewall your body has and inject you with their own system, which is essentially going to reprogram and rewrite your immune system, change how your body works, how your natural defense works. And sure, you might think that sounds great. That's like incredibly scientific and the forefront of technology. Yeah, it is. It's very advanced, and I believe there can be good application of this. But what I see is more like a subscription model for any antivirus software on a computer. So if a pathogen is released and your health security upgrade antivirus vaccine is out of date, maybe you've got last year's one, or you decided you only wanted a certain type. Well, now your immune system is rewritten and reprogrammed, so it can't fight it, and you're dependent on this vaccine system, this mRNA inside you. Now your DNA doesn't work properly, so you can't fight it. Instead, it makes you sick, and maybe even you die, unless you're willing to pay for the upgrades, which is why you have so many people focusing on the depopulation aspect. This is why. That's what ID 2020 and a social credit system is really about. What you're seeing here is a consolidation of power. You might notice a lot of the policies going through under the current circumstances are very much in line with the Green New Deal and the whole green agenda, which is also about socialism and social control and a consolidation of power, ultimately leading to a technocracy, which is, control through technology. And it's literally a very, very physical version of that, to the point where you are putting technology in your body and relying on it. And look, I'm a guy who's had surgery, and that's how I got put onto this stuff, because after my surgery, I actually felt really good. I was cured of any kind of problems I had related to these nano issues. And then 4 months later, it all came back, and then I realized something isn't right here. I've been eating healthy, or fairly healthy, for the time before I really knew about this. And I tried my best, to do all my physio exercises. And then it all came back, and I started looking into this and why I was having these symptoms. And then I found Morgellons disease, which is incredible. when you actually look at the symptoms associated with it, it's mostly due to like heavy metal poisoning, it comes from everything, not just vaccines, as most people will tell you. Heavy metals are all in our food and GMO products and all this. They're all in medication. They're all loaded up with these things because it bulks out the size of the pill, and it only treats the symptoms, doesn't cure the effect. If anything, makes it worse in some cases. And then I've started to realize what's going on, and now it's full steam ahead on their part. They are trying to roll this out now before everyone else realizes. So there was always a quote from Julian Assange which interested me. He said, "Intelligent evil dust." Those were his words. He was talking about smart dust, which is essentially a nanotechnology, which is intelligent and programmable tiny nanocrystals, which are everywhere. This stuff comes out from pollution, like jet planes. People who have analysed these particulates have found certain types of heavy metal which is responsible for things like mad cow disease. And I'm not saying chemtrails cause mad cow disease, not at all. I'm saying the components put out by these jet fuel and all this pollution is the same. Carbon dioxide isn't the problem, and plenty of meteorologists will tell you that. Pollution is. Pollution's a very real problem. So, heavy metal poisoning includes a number of symptoms, such as chronic fatigue, autoimmune diseases, like Lyme's disease, poor recovery from exercise, and general weakness in your tissue, skin irritation, so you have like rashes or stuff like that, neurological diseases, which is a lot to do with like nerves and other things, such as Alzheimer's, which is also linked to glyphosates, which acts as a carrier to bring aluminium particles into the brain, or an increased risk of strokes and things like seizures, spinal cord disorders, brain fog, difficulty concentrating or learning, and poor retaining of information, dementia, depression, and things like bipolar disorder and anxiety. Insomnia. Has anyone got trouble sleeping? You could have digestive issues, such as irritable bowel syndrome, chronic aches and pains, tremors, anemia, poor motor function and control, so your hearing and speech and vision can be affected, and a higher risk of heart attacks. And I would imagine the list goes on because that covers a broad range of many symptoms, especially when you pair this with the constant bombardment from Wi-Fi and radio signals. They're everywhere. We're meant to be inhabitants of this planet, connected with this planet through nature, but instead we're constantly surrounded by artificial radio waves and electromagnetic frequencies which are completely disconnecting us from nature. And we're also loaded with these heavy metals which act as receivers for these frequencies. Do you see any possibility that these kind of things are responsible for the terrible health conditions people are suffering all around you, and just the way that human health in general has declined over the last several decades? Do you think maybe there's a possibility that these massive corporations don't have our best interests at heart? So there's that too. That's fun. Now, there is ways to get better and ways to stop this. If you're like me, it can be a little bit difficult at first. I used to be a massive sugar fiend. I used to drink soda drinks and liked eating sugary snacks. And growing up, I ate lots of processed food because we were quite poor. Once you actually commit to this, it's really simple. Just stop eating trans fats and stop consuming really acidic food. Get rid of refined sugar. Use natural sugars like honey instead. Fruit and veg has natural sugar in, and it's all bonded to natural proteins like it should be. Grow your own if you can, definitely, because if you have access to heritage seeds, they're a lot better than GMO seeds and terminated seeds, which they lack certain proteins and certain fibers are different, which isn't natural and isn't what your body wants if you're trying to rebalance yourself this way. You know, you can eat them every now and then, but you can't sustain off them. This is why certain vegan diets are better off if you're fully organic, biological organic, which means outdoor grown as well, because natural light plays a big part in the energy that the food provides. Get the full light spectrum in there and you get a lot more nutrients. It's a lot healthier. You won't be able to survive on mass-produced food alone, or not healthily anyway. In fact, it's GMO and Terminator seeds, courtesy of Bayer Monsanto, the company who rebranded mustard gas as chemotherapy. Them kind of seeds are actually responsible for decline of bee colony disorder, because the pollen isn't natural or doesn't produce the same kind of pollen that the bees actually need. Anyway, getting a bit off track. You get people like Elon Musk saying, download yourself onto a microchip and become 2D. Does that sound like a good idea to you? And he promotes ideas such as Neuralink, which is exactly nanotechnology. It's presented, as a cure for Alzheimer's and all this. And I do understand there could be a positive aspect to this, but ultimately I don't think it belongs in the human body. It's not natural. It's susceptible to things like radio signals, so they can control your thoughts and your ego and everything about you. And if you don't believe that kind of technology is real, I suggest you look up V2K, voice to skull technology, or the voice of God technology, which we used during the Second Iraq War. Okay? So there was some old computer games which I think were trying to warn us about this, like Deus Ex and System Shock. This is pretty much the exact reality that we are on the verge of right now, with things like ID 2020 being proposed, and the whole social credit system based around this kind of technology. So, it's up to you whether you go along with it or what you do about this. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. I hope you learned something.